Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello, and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Keir, and joining me as always is Austin Davidson.
Heyo.
We are your co-hosts for the Stronger Than Steel podcast. We thank you as always for joining us today, and unfortunately, the subject matter is not too great for Steelers football right now. They dropped another disappointing game on Sunday Night Football against the Los Angeles Chargers, 33-30 in a game that many of us probably thought was sloppy in a lot of fashions. The officiating was not very good. The Steelers collapsed, essentially. They gave up a 16-point lead. I forget exactly the statistic. I think it was something along the lines of the Steelers were 203-0-2 in their team's history at home when leading by, I think it's 14 points going into the fourth quarter, and they blew a 16-point lead, and that was just, it was so bad, and I don't know. I still, several days later, have not been able to completely process it. What say you? Have you been able to come to grips with it at all?
No, there's just so much stupid stuff to look back on. It just pisses you off. You look at one facet, you can look at the refs and be mad. You can look at Ben Roethlisberger and be mad. You can look at Sean Davis and be mad. You can look at Chris Boswell and be mad. You can just, and then look at the whole defense collapsing and be mad. There's just so many different things to look at.
One thing that would probably be a little frustrating as far as one player being mad would probably be Justin Hunter. If I'm Justin Hunter, I'm not too happy right now. Hunter, unfortunately for him, suffered a shoulder injury kind of at the hands of Ben Roethlisberger. He overthrew a wide-open Justin Hunter, and we'll get into that a little later, but he injured his shoulder diving for a ball that he was wide open on, by the way, and he goes to IR, and it's just, it feels kind of, I guess it feels just wrong place at the wrong time. It's kind of disappointing because it was the first time you really felt like Justin Hunter finally did something right, and he's wide open, and then of course Roethlisberger overthrows him, and sure enough he's doing everything he can to catch it, and he hurts himself in the process.
It's just unfortunate. I think my favorite thing coming from that was literally people saying Ben is playing like he wants James Washington back on the active roster, because that's how it looked like. He missed Justin Hunter more than once. It wasn't that only time. Missed him a second time, and just not good. Obviously got him hurt. It was just not a good play. And I even though I hate on Justin Hunter, you don't want a player to get hurt. Like I didn't want Justin Hunter to go on an injury, but it's just unfortunate that it happened.
So that led to a flurry of different events. As we know, the Steelers had released Matthew Thomas and signed Ola Adeniyi from the PUP, or rather activated him from the PUP list. Thomas reverted back to the practice squad, and you might wonder, how did they open up room there? Well, Justin Hunter went to IR, so that made room for one other spot. James Conner was hurt, and he's already been declared out for next week's game. So the Steelers called up running back Trey Edmonds, the brother of Terrell Edmonds. I believe he's the oldest brother, if I'm not mistaken. He is now going to be the number 3 running back this week with Conner out, which opened up the spot on the practice squad for Matthew Thomas. So a little bit of juggling around here, but I guess all in all, we kind of figured that Matthew Thomas wasn't going to be gone long.
Yeah. I think we all knew that Matthew Thomas was going to be back, unless like something came out like that he had something wrong outside the field or something, because he's got a lot of talent. So I think he's worth keeping around in the practice squad if someone gets hurt. But it makes sense why they cut him. I did say that I thought there was a chance Cameron Sutton wouldn't be ready to go because of his personal problem, whatever that be, and that's exactly what happened. And it just fell that way, that Matthew Thomas was like the best guy to cut since, well, Marcus Gilbert's hurt, so we kind of need Zach Banner just in case. Well, Morgan Burnett's hurt, so Marcus Allen's going to get his first active game. Well, Cameron Sutton's not playing, so we need Brian Allen, and that just left Matthew Thomas, and they were like, well, we got all our inside linebackers pretty healthy, so we can afford to get rid of him. So it makes sense that they had to cut him, and it also makes sense now that they just bring him back, because I think at the time he was just the best. He was the ideal guy to cut.
Exactly. So that is all the Steelers stuff that's been going on as far as transactions go. Do you think we see Trey Edmonds playing at all this week?
Based on what they said, I'm going to say yeah. I'm going to say he does get at least a touch or two. I won't say he'll definitely get a snap or two, but I think he's going to get a touch or two, just because they said it's going to be committee. Whoever, maybe Jalen Samuels isn't doing good on the ground, they'll try Stephen Ridley. My idea is that they're going to do Stephen Ridley mostly on the ground, and then Jalen Samuels going to be on throwing packages. But I think they're going to mix Trey Edmonds in there. I don't really know what Edmonds is good at, though. I don't remember what he did. He was on the Saints. I don't remember him on the Saints ever. Like, I remember Tavares Cadet. I remember Sproles and all the other older guys that were on the Saints. I don't remember ever seeing Trey Edmonds.
Edmonds is mostly a special teams guy. I mean, he can play running back, but he's been mostly a special teams guy throughout his short career. So
that makes sense.
So,
do you think he gets any snaps in this game?
He'll probably get one or two. I'd be shocked if he got anything more than 5, barring injury. He's going to be a special teams guy. Would be my guess. All right, so now that we've gone on that tangent, let's get back into the game, because I'm sure we want to air our grievances and we kind of just want to get it over with. So let's start. Sunday Night Football, under the lights. The Chargers start with the football, and immediately the first play we see an issue with the defense that we also see on the Chargers' last kind of big third down conversion in the game on their last drive, and that's that a linebacker is covering Keenan Allen, maybe a top 10 wide receiver in the league, maybe top 5 on his best days. And Dupree had good coverage, but you're leaving a linebacker in open space on a great wide receiver. Bad things are going to happen, and it's a 14-yard gain, and that really just was a microcosm for the entire game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's from the first play of the game that we saw Allen versus the linebackers, and it's just Keith Butler refused to change after that. I don't know if you saw the BS reasons that Mike Tomlin gave today. Mike Tomlin claimed that injuries were why that he had linebackers match up on Keenan Allen. I don't know what that means. Well, who was injured that you couldn't use? Morgan Burnett? You thought Morgan Burnett was going to be able to cover Keenan Allen by himself? I thought Joe Hayden was doing fine whenever he got close to him. It's just, I was baffled. I think that was a cover-up for them doing a bad job. Like, it was a bad excuse, and I'm still mad about it. I'm still mad about how linebackers just constantly got on them. But really, coming into this game, though, I was worried about Cody Sensabaugh. I kind of hammered it home that I thought that a lot of the Chargers wide receivers were really outmatched him. But on the first drive, he actually did okay. He got minus 2-yard tackle and started solid, I thought, from this drive. And then another thing I wanted to say about this first drive was that there was a good break for the Steelers with the missed field goal. The Chargers have been pretty bad at kicking all kicks, similar to how the Steelers have been this year. And that missed field goal gave them a good field position. It was a really good start.
Yeah, the Steelers' average starting field position, as we know, has not been very good this year. The Chargers moved the ball to the Steelers' side of the field, but that big tackle by Cody Sensabaugh helped stop that drive. The 52-yard field goal, which would have been, I believe, the second longest in Heinz Field history, was no good. And then the Steelers take over, and just a couple plays later, Ben Roethlisberger finds Antonio Brown for 46 yards down at the 1-yard line. You talked about this pregame on your solo episode earlier this week, or last week rather, about how you thought Antonio Brown could have a good day against someone like Casey Hayward, who is a good cornerback, but might have been having a bit of a down year. You want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, the Chargers were very weak against the deep ball coming in. They gave up a lot of plays from just breaking down on coverages and just a lot of getting beat deep because they're a little bit of a slower team. Their fastest guy, if you guys listen to the actual game, you probably heard the announcer say it like 5 times that Michael Davis was their fastest corner, and that was a problem. Casey Hayward hasn't been having the year we've been used to. Like, Casey Hayward last year was elite. Casey Hayward, I think, led the league in interceptions last year, and this year he has zero turnovers, no forced fumbles, no nothing. So I felt pretty confident because I thought that the Chargers were going to respect Juju a little bit more after they saw that, okay, well, the Broncos got destroyed by Juju when Antonio Brown was covered, so we need to kind of we need to pick our battles and try and cover them both the best we can. And that left, because they trusted Casey Hayward a lot, they left Antonio Brown open a lot. And on the very first play of offense, I'm sorry, not the very first play, the second play of offense, they immediately attacked that, the Steelers. Antonio Brown got a 9-yard gain, and it was against Casey Hayward. And then immediately next play, Antonio Brown against Casey Hayward. I mean, the safety was sort of there to help. The safety was pretty far away. The safety was slow to move over. But Antonio Brown won that battle. He had 2 steps on Casey Hayward, and it was exactly what I was expecting. It was we really saw that Brown was the better wide receiver compared to Casey Hayward's cornerbacks too. And I do think I do stick with Casey Hayward has regressed this year. He's not as good as a cornerback as he was in previous years.
So the ball's at the 1-yard line. Immediately, James Conner plunges in from 1 yard out, and notice that they had a single back set where Roethlisberger was under center. It's nice to know that they still know how to run the football in goal line situations correctly, unlike we saw the previous week, and the Steelers are immediately up 7-0. And I wanted to point out on the ensuing kickoff, Chris Boswell had a fantastic kickoff. It was placed just perfectly in the end zone and in the corner. So Desmond King decided to return it, and he got walloped by Terrell Edmunds. But in any case, the first play of the drive was another play by Edmunds. He actually got his first career sack. Kind of an odd one because Terrell Edmunds kind of moseyed his way on in there. He kind of ran up, got to where the pocket was forming, kind of stopped for a second for some reason and was like, oh, what am I going to do now? And then Rivers kind of ran away because he's like, there's a safety right next to me that is looking right at me, so I'm going to try to get away. And then Edmunds sees that, chases him down, and he's just so fast. He finishes off the sack. And I don't want to knock a guy because it is his first career sack, but and he did a good job. But I think going forward, I want him to be a little more decisive there because I don't know what that was all about.
See, what I thought of that sack, I said the same thing, and I still stand by what I said. I think it was 3 weeks ago. I don't remember exactly what game, but there was a game where I said I don't want to see Terrell Edmunds pass rushing anymore. I don't like it. I don't think it's a good idea, and Steelers typically get burnt, and you could see why because he was hesitant. Something else I wanted to talk about was the refs are still so inconsistent. I mean, not that the Steelers needed any more put against them from the refs in this game, but as soon as I saw that, it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's a penalty. He put, his full body on Phil Rivers, and then nothing. I was trying to look at it. I was like, why is this not a penalty? I guess it was because he put his arm down next to Phil Rivers to, I guess, soften the blow. But as soon as I saw that real time, I was like, oh, geez, that's a penalty. That's a 15-yard to the Chargers. I was surprised. I really thought this was before the refs called any of the other or didn't call any of the other penalties. So, I wasn't even thinking that the refs were really going to mess with the Steelers yet. I thought that was a penalty waiting to happen. And I'm sure if that happens again like that, it will be called because that was a close one, in my opinion, at least.
Are you sure it wasn't just because he's a safety that weighs 190 pounds? Maybe
it's just because he doesn't weigh a lot. Yeah, but I feel like that's weird. The rule isn't okay, if you weigh a lot, you weigh little enough, you can put your full body weight. It's literally just you can't put your body weight on the quarterback.
But that sounds like something that would go through the mind of an NFL official, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. Less chance to get hurt.
It's a difference when you're talking about a 320-pound defensive tackle. But in any case, the Chargers go 3 and out after that sack, and the Steelers get the ball inside Chargers territory to start. So we're talking about this fantastic field position to start. They start moving the ball down the field. They get a big pass interference play to get them set up at the 1-yard line, and James Conner, goal line formation, plunges it in, his second touchdown of the game. And it's like, boy, he's back, man. And by the way, James Conner now, 12 rushing touchdowns on the year, 13 in total. Just to give you an idea of where he is stacking up with the rest of the team's history, Franco Harris holds the team record with 14 rushing touchdowns in 1976. I believe there are 2 other running backs. I know at least Willie Parker and Jerome Bettis also had 13 at one point. Willie Parker holds the team record for most touchdowns in a season with 16. he had 13 rushing touchdowns and 3 receiving touchdowns in 2006. So Connor is 1 away from tying Parker and Bettis for second all-time in rushing touchdowns, 2 from tying Franco Harris, and 3 from going into first place. And he has 13 touchdowns now, so he needs 4 more total touchdowns to vault into first place. Do you think he has a chance to do it? Because I think he does, assuming he plays not this week, obviously, but the final 3 games.
It's really unfortunate that he can't play this game, though, because the Raiders are one of the worst rush defenses in the league. But I'm going to say no, because I think he's not going to come back next week. I think that he's gone for the Raiders game, and I think he's gone for the game following. And I believe it's at the Patriots or is that the Saints? I'm confused on the schedule.
Patriots before the Saints.
It's the who? I'm sorry.
Patriots and then the Saints.
Okay, so it's the Patriots and the Saints. So I don't think he's going to be back for the Patriots either. With 2 games, I mean, it's possible, but I don't think he could break the record. I think he could tie it, but it's a lot. That ankle sprain, I think, is going to keep him out 2 weeks, and then we'll see, though. It's going to be close. But back to the game, you saw on that drive that the Steelers really wanted to attack Michael Davis. The announcers pointed out that as well, that Michael Davis, despite being their fastest cornerback, was probably their most susceptible to making mistakes. He was like the youngest one. He was a rookie, and you could see that they thought he was weak. Ben threw right at Ryan Switzer when he saw Michael Davis was draped all over him. So this was like a key to the entire game because Michael Davis kept getting matched up on Juju Smith-Schuster, and Ben kept looking at that the entire game. Even though Juju didn't get that many yards, he did get a lot of catches. But after that goal line touchdown, which again, to echo what John said, I'm glad that Randy remembered that Connor existed in goal line situations. But Boswell missed his last PAT for me. He's got to be cut after the season, in my opinion. There's a lot that he needs to do in my mind right now that it's going to take me to say, all right, you know what? He should be kept into. He should still be the Steelers kicker starting game 1 of next season because right now it's just you miss too many PATs. I think it's 8. I think he's at 8 right now, and he's the Steelers have the 3rd worst PAT percentage in the league. I thought originally it was the 2nd, but there's another team at 30 behind in front of the Chargers, but 31. I'm sorry, I can't do math, but I think it's time for him to go. I'm a little bit sick of it. I won't lie.
I don't know. I need to look at his contract information. I know I hammered this home when it happened, but I'm really not. I'm not crazy about giving kickers big extensions like this, but I don't know what you do at this point. I think sometimes you guys will have bad years. Sean Schweisum's second year with the Steelers was not very good, and then he had 2 more pretty good years after that. I don't really know. It's obviously mental, but as is the case with kickers, it's really just a crapshoot. But there should absolutely be competition brought in next year for training camp. But this was a crucial missed point after attempt. The Chargers would not have gone for 2 had they been down. What was it? It was 24. It was 23-7. So if it was 24-7, they score a touchdown. It's now 24-13. They don't go for 2 there. They only go for the PAT. So at that point, it's 24-14. And when they score again, they're obviously not going to be able to tie the game. So right there, that PAT missed is a domino effect that rolls on throughout the game. I never even thought about it until afterwards. But that's how important these are, and that's why missing point after attempts, I know they're harder to make now than they were. I forget however many years ago it was when they changed how far it was, but it's unacceptable, plain and simple. And it really was part of the reason that the Chargers were able to come back. And another reason, obviously, is some inconsistent officiating. We saw it on the next drive. It really felt like this was kind of going to go like the Falcons game that we saw earlier this year, where the Steelers went up, I think it was 13-0 as well, and they cruised to a 41-17 victory. The Chargers were moving the ball down the field. They got just to the Pittsburgh side of the field, and then there was a very bizarre play where it looked like, as far as everyone on the field and at home seemed to be able to tell, the right tackle got out of his stance a little fast, and it should have been fast enough for a flag. We've all seen it, but the play was allowed to continue. And sure enough, Phillip Rivers finds Travis Benjamin down the right sideline for a 46-yard touchdown where Mike Hilton was burned on the play. And some of the Steelers players were kind of shocked at first, but sure enough, that's not a reviewable play. And before you know it, it's 13-6. And I've seen bad calls. I'm not one that likes to harp on the officiating because it's low-hanging fruit, but this one was bad. It's plain and simple. That's one of the worst non-calls I've seen in a long time.
Not only that, it was one of 9. After the game, I forget the name, otherwise I would credit them. Someone went back to check out all the missed calls. There were 11 total missed calls in the game. 2 went against the Chargers. 2 went for the Chargers, I'm sorry. And then 9 went against the Steelers, where the refs missed 9 penalties that should have been called against the Chargers. And that was one of them. And this was the worst because we all saw it. It was just absolutely terrible. The guy got like a full second of a full second of a head. I don't even know how to explain it really. He really just took off. Like it was like a full second before everyone else on the line moved. The ball hadn't moved for another like a second, and just T.J. Watt standing there like after like trying to talk to the ref like what happened. The ref literally came over to Mike Tomlin and said, "Yeah, it was our bad." Like, yeah, of course it was your bad. Like, you literally gave up a penalty that gave them a touchdown. And who knows what happens if they get that penalty. It was 1st and 10 at the time, but maybe the Steelers, maybe they get a sack on the next play because it's 2nd and 10 and Phillip Rivers has to play. And maybe they're out of field goal range. You don't know. This is all what ifs now because the refs weren't able to see one of the most clear calls ever. And, like, this is really bad. Like, I don't know how else to put it because, like you said, like it's hard to harp on refs when like it's close and like, oh, in slow-mo it looks like this. This wasn't. You didn't need slow-mo to see this. Everyone on the field saw this. Like you could see it from a mile away, and it was just terrible. But something else I want to talk about on this drive, that there was some good on the beginning of it. There's good hustle by Hargrave on the first play because I found this to be funny. He got the tackle on Keenan Allen for only a 4-yard gain. I found it funny that Javon Hargrave made it out there to stop Keenan Allen. So I wanted to give him props for that. Then I wanted to talk about Cody one more time. I talked about him on the first drive. And this is where we first saw him get beat on, like the athletic the mismatch I was scared of. He let a pretty big pass to Mike Williams happen on 2nd and 9. It went for 14 yards, and it was that mismatch I was looking for. But Sean Davis, it was part of Sean Davis' bad day, too. Sean Davis needed to get there. I don't know what Sean Davis was doing. There was no one else deep to guard. It was literally only him. And he needed to come down and help Cody sense the ball there. But it just contributed to Sean Davis's especially bad day.
This was the play before the touchdown, and this was also a theme for the Steelers. That play was a 2nd and 9. It was a huge 14-yard gain on a 2nd and long, and this was a theme we saw all night. I felt like it was 3 or 4 times we saw a 2nd and 9, 2nd and 14, a 3rd and 14. We saw these long completions, these long gains on these downs, and it's great if you can win first down, but you can't give it all up the very next play. We've seen the Steelers do that a few times last year, but especially this year and a lot the last couple weeks. That's not something that can sit over well at all. They have to be better in those situations. I don't know if they're getting too conservative, but something needs to change. And the last point I wanted to make about the penalties, that it really changed the game at that point. Like I said, it really felt like the Steelers-Falcons game going before that play. If the Steelers come up with the stop at that point, it's possible they go in and make this game a blowout. And without that score, if you think about how the rest of the half goes, if they don't score, it's 23-0 and not 23-7, which, could have been the difference. But again, we're getting into what ifs. But that's why that kind of a play, it's, bang bang plays are one thing. Egregiously awful plays where everyone can see it, that's another thing. And I get that they can't review that, but I'm just asking for them to be a little bit better. So the Steelers now get the ball back. They start converting some 3rd downs, and then here at the Pittsburgh 48, we see the Steelers try a flea flicker. So Justin Hunter got targeted 3 times, and we already talked about the last target for him that ended in him leaving the game. He had the trifecta of of poor passes from Roethlisberger. So the first one was a flea flicker, as I just mentioned, a deep pass to the end zone where he was double covered, mind you. So Roethlisberger basically threw it out of the end zone. That play shouldn't have been called, really. And then several plays later, he throws it to the sideline, and he basically throws it out of bounds. It felt like the ball was closer to the first row of the seats than it was to Justin Hunter. And the Steelers are able to move the ball into Chargers territory, and it looks like they might be able to score again. And then Roethlisberger completes a pass down to the Chargers' 22-yard line, and Roethlisberger throws one of the ugliest interceptions I've ever seen. What happened?
Well, at first I thought it was just floated, I thought it was an awful throw. I thought that it was just terrible, but after going back, putting in slow-mo a little bit, I looked at it a lot and saw the pressure coming from the right side from Matt Filer. And to me, it looked like because of where Filer was, Ben couldn't complete his motion and the ball slipped out. And you could see the ball didn't come out nice. It was very wobbly ball. My first thought was that his arm got hit. I was looking at it, I was like, did his arm get hit? Because it was kind of close from the I couldn't see it from the other angle. So it looked like the defender maybe got close, maybe got his arm on. And then I looked and I felt like he just couldn't complete his motion. And it just came out weird. And Ben Roethlisberger said it slipped out, and it was just ugly. I mean, I felt like he wasn't respecting Derwin James either. Like that's the LA Chargers' best defensive player right there. Derwin James is not the guy you attack at all. Like that's not a good idea. I mean, granted, if Ben did put that perfectly, but I mean, if you do anything perfectly, of course it's going to be complete. It's just if Ben threw that like three yards higher, yeah, probably a completion, but that's a lot of yards higher. He was really off, and it was just not a very good play. And like you said, Ben was pretty inaccurate on this whole entire drive. He missed Hunter. On the 8-yard gain that Juju got on 3rd and 2, he nearly threw too high, and that was almost a pick because Juju had to go up for it and catch, and it got him hit pretty hard when he didn't have to be like that. Then he missed Juju right after that again. It was not good. It was just not good. Also, one thing I want to point out after the interception, good on Big Al for stopping that, because I think if he there was one more guy that could have gotten him. There's James Conner, and James Conner is fast, obviously, but I think if Big Al didn't stop him, that was going to be a touchdown. I thought that was going for 6, because based on where he was, if he just went laterally across the field and just outran James Conner that way, because there was 2 guys in front of him. There's James Conner and Ramon Foster. Ramon Foster was not getting there. And then, so as long as he beat Conner outside, he was gone. And just luckily Big Al stopped that. For some reason, he ran straight into Alonso Villanueva. I guess he wasn't scared because he was a big guy, but still. So thank you, Big Al, for probably stopping what I thought was going to be a pick 6.
I could be wrong on this. I need to double check, but can you tell me the one quarterback that's thrown more interceptions than Ben Roethlisberger the last 2 years?
Is it Jameis Winston?
It is Blake Bortles.
It's Blake Bortles?
I believe so. Maybe it's since 2015. I don't remember. I'll have to do my due diligence. I heard that somewhere. I know that Bortles had... It must be since 2015, because Bortles had 18 in 2015. Okay, I could be wrong. Never mind. I'm talking nonsense. But either way, Roethlisberger's thrown way too many interceptions, and I'm sick of it. And I understand that this one wasn't necessarily his fault as far as the pressure being given up, but he had horrible technique. He has to feel the pressure a little bit better than that, and it was a disaster. And that could have been much worse than it ended up being, and it killed another scoring drive. And that's the thing about Roethlisberger. It wasn't a red zone interception, but it was 2 yards away, so it might as well have been. And it's just, I don't know what else you need to say about it. It feels like he's hurting the team a lot more than he's been helping lately.
I feel like, how do I put this? I feel like because he's throwing so much in this season, I'm not saying that the interceptions are acceptable, but I feel like they're just going. It feels like it's more, but he's throwing at a historical rate, like for the Steelers anyway. So I feel like I'm actually not. I'm not as pissed about the interception. I mean, that one was bad. I do. I wish that one came back because that's obviously, if one thing goes right for the Steelers, if that doesn't happen and they kick the field goal, they likely win this game. Or maybe they get a touchdown and it's even better. But regardless, I feel like because they're throwing so much as of late, that's why the interceptions are going up. Because the touchdown interception ratio is at 2 right now. Like, it's 2-1.
Yes.
And that's not like, it's not very good. Don't get me wrong, but it's not out of Ben's range. Like, that's about where he's always been, like, his career thing. Because I, had just literally looked him up on Pro Football Reference, getting ready for the next podcast. And it feels like it's still within, his range, to about 2-1.
That's actually interesting that you mentioned that because you have statistics to back up your claim. So I'll actually back off mine a little bit. So Ben Roethlisberger's career interception rate is at 2.7%, and this year it's at 2.5%, which is actually tied for the 5th lowest of his career.
Yeah, so it's not like it just feels, because it's happening it's happening more. It's not happening at a higher rate. It's just happening more. So it feels like he's throwing more interceptions than normal because he is throwing more interceptions than normal, but he's also throwing more than normal. That's what I was thinking going into this.
So in any case, let's leave that interception behind. The Chargers take over. More movement for the Chargers. Another couple of questionable. They moved early. They didn't move early. They end up punting. The Steelers get the ball back. And then this is where we see the third down offense really take a 180. They started 3 for 3 on the day in third down on offense. And then the rest of the day, they went 0 for 7. And it's just, I'm not sure what happened here, but on this first play, it was a 5-yard pass on a 3rd and 6 to Vance McDonald over the middle. I'm not a huge fan of this play, and unless if it's a hot read on a blitz, there shouldn't be a single route outside of the running back leaking out of the backfield that runs a route shorter than the first down marker. That's a huge pet peeve of mine. And the reason why is, as you see on that play, McDonald is stopped short of the line to gain, and the Steelers have to punt. So a great punt by Jordan Berry saves the Steelers from having a bad field position drive there, but the Chargers take over, and from there, and I guess, what do you think about that? Because that was really the start of the poor third down offense there.
Yeah, first, starting with the defensive drive prior, the run defense was on point at that time in the game. Really, Austin Eckler was held in check. He had 3 touches for -3 yards on that 6-play drive that the Chargers punted on. And then also I wanted to mention that Ola Adaney got involved on that -3 yard rush that Austin Eckler had, and I was just happy. And Adaney looks pretty solid. I texted John during the game. I was like, this guy is going to be really good at some point. I don't know how good, because he didn't light up the scoreboard. He didn't really do anything. He had 1 tackle. That was it. But you saw him pass rushing, the applying pressure, and then I'm just looking. I'm like, you're going to be good one day. You're going to develop into something great. I'm calling it now because he just looks really solid. And I know that's one game, and then probably the next 10 games he's going to be cut, and I'm going to be completely wrong, but I just wanted to point that out. But moving on to the offense drive, I really didn't have much to say. Like you said, it was just not. You don't run short of the first down marker on third down. It's just stupid. It shouldn't. It doesn't make sense. What's the point? Do you wish Vance McDonald kind of stretched out for it? Yeah, but he shouldn't have to stretch out for it. He should be running on that line. Maybe it was his fault. Maybe he was supposed to be running on that line, and he just lost track of where he was. Because obviously, that yellow line is only on TV. It's edited on. The players have to really be aware of where they're running, by themselves. So maybe it was just on Vance McDonald. He didn't know where he was. But I don't know. And then I wanted to talk about that punt. That punt by Jordan Berry, is probably his best all year. It completely flipped the field, and the returner let it go because he thought it was going out, and it just had the right spin, and that was probably the best punt I might have seen from Jordan Berry ever, if I'm being honest with you. I was very happy after that punt, and then obviously Brian Allen stopped it from rolling forward, so I guess I'll give him a little bit of credit. But Jordan Berry, that was an A1 punt. You don't get that often from me.
And he had, I believe, a 69-yarder earlier in the year, too, but that was definitely a big one, especially because the Chargers had to punt shortly after and close to the end of the half. This was a huge play. The big block by L.J. Fort on the punt, which I believe is going to be, I still need to make my final decision, but it's one of the candidates for the Big Stop of the Week award, and I know it's also a candidate for the play of the game. It's technically not a block because it went past the line of scrimmage, but, I mean, he deflected it. It went 4 yards. It was originally caught by Jalen Samuels and was recovered by Jordan Dangerfield. That could have been really bad because if the Chargers recovered that where it was, they would have kept possession. But, again, another great scheme. Fort comes in and blocks it, and, it all worked out in the end. But even a great play like that leaves you feeling,
Yeah, Jalen Samuels nearly messed that up. I was so mad when I saw it. I was like, Jalen Samuels, no. Like, they still haven't taught you guys what to do on a free kick and or whatever. They're not trained very well. They don't know what's happening because once it was tipped at the line, which means wherever it landed, if it wasn't touched, it was the Steelers. But as soon as Jalen Samuels touched it, it was muffing the punt. He muffed it, and then they could recover it. I was confused on what the announcers were talking about. Like, as soon as I saw Jordan Dangerfield come up with it, and they're like, yeah, I don't know. I was getting confused. I thought I didn't understand the rule. Like, yeah, this should be Chargers ball right here. I was like, what do you mean? Like, the Steelers recovered it. Like, is there a rule I don't know about? They were all confused, and that confused me. But regardless, luckily Jalen Samuels' mess up didn't actually mess up anything. Dangerfield was right there, and just L.J. Fort continued to impress in this game. L.J. Fort was so huge, but something I wanted to talk about before the punt was Tuitt. Tuitt was so big. On 3rd and 3, Tuitt stuck his arm up and blocked that ball all by himself with a pass breakup. He had 2 pass breakups in this. Oh, no, actually, I think Cameron Hayward got credited with the other one after. Yeah, I take that back. But still, Stephon Tuitt only had 2 pass breakups all year last year, and he got 1 in this game. He's already on pace to do better than he did last year, and he's been injured the past 2 games. So, like, we're getting good things as Stephon Tuitt this year, which is a complete turnaround. I think if you go, like, back 6 weeks on the podcast, you'll hear me screaming about Stephon Tuitt doing absolutely nothing. So it's a good turnaround for Stephon Tuitt, and I just wanted to point out that he was good coming back into the lineup this game.
Yes, even on a limited snap count and kind of coming back from injury, he still made his presence felt. So the Steelers get the ball at the 34, immediately go 3 and out, and this is where Roethlisberger misses the wide-open Justin Hunter. Chris Boswell comes on, makes on the 48-yarder, but you didn't feel great about leaving the points on the board. So now it's 16-7, right around the 2-minute warning. The Chargers end up getting stopped just right around midfield, so the Steelers get the ball at their own 9. And then James Conner goes off the left guard for 20 yards, and you really felt like this is where the Steelers were going to take control. They started moving the ball methodically down the field. Roethlisberger found Smith-Schuster for 16, Switzer for 6 yards. There was a defensive pass interference on Michael Davis that put the Steelers at the 28-yard line, and immediately, with 24 seconds left, Roethlisberger with great protection slides to his left, finds Antonio Brown in the end zone. And another fantastic drive at the end of the half that we've seen from this team for years now. And they go 91 yards in just 76 seconds. What a way to end the half.
Yeah, it was really good. But obviously the throw to Justin Hunter was not. That was the difference between a win and a loss. And that was one of the most painful things to look back on. But what's funny is, with no pressure, he misses wide open Justin Hunter, and under pressure and forced out of the pocket, it's a touchdown to AB. And I just wanted to say that celebration made me giggle. I don't know if you saw it, but they just recreated their Pizza Hut commercial that they have together. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know the one you're talking about as far as the commercial, but I don't remember the celebration itself.
literally all they're doing is they're doing the shoot, but Antonio Brown's like, watch me, and they literally recreate. I think he said it. It looked like they were recreating it. It made me lol. But back to the actual game. I just wanted to say that on that drive to end the half, it was a good job by Juju to break a tackle for some extra yards while still getting out of bounds. Looked like he was going to get pushed out at like about 9-yard gain, and he got an extra 7 yards. So I want to say pretty good for him. Then the play prior to that, I just want the offensive drive prior to that. There's a great punt from Barry, but the special teams penalties just continue to be all too common for the Steelers. It's just they really, really just can't get over the special teams penalties way too much. And I really think that wraps up all I had to say about all those drives. One more thing on the defensive drive prior, that there was good pressure on Rivers on all three of his incompletions that led to their punt. So I just wanted to point that out too.
So what are you thinking at 23-7 coming out of the half? The Steelers get the ball. Are you thinking Steelers go down, score a touchdown, and this game is over? What are you thinking at this point?
I'm thinking if they get any points on that first drive, the game is over. Because I mean, to come back, it would be 26-7. That's a lot to come back. That's 19 points. Yeah, 19 points. So you're talking about you got to get 2 touchdowns, 2 2-point conversions, and then field goals to tie the game. And that's a lot. I was thinking that it would be over if they just got any points on the board, and likely that's true. That would have been true.
Did you think there was any chance the Steelers would lose? Like, I mean, at that point, you're probably thinking, yeah, the Chargers could theoretically probably score up to like 30 maybe, but in your mind, is there any way the Steelers lose that game?
I didn't think the offense would stall. I thought no. I thought that they would put up at least 10 more points.
Yeah, I was really thinking they would get a good amount more than that as well. But obviously, the first drive starts in the second half, and the Steelers don't get a lot done. They go 3-and-out immediately, or sorry, not 3-and-out. I apologize. Vance McDonald has his weekly trucking of a defender as he absolutely crushes the Chargers defensive players there, getting a first down, and then the Steelers get to move the ball a little bit more. Okay, here's what I was thinking of. So the Steelers now over midfield. James Conner gets a 22-yard run off right tackle from a pulling offensive lineman, and they call holding on Ramon Foster. And I didn't think much of it at the time, but this was a huge call, and Foster's call was kind of soft in my opinion. This really felt like another turning point. I know we've mentioned turning points a lot. I guess there's a lot of them when you have this big of a comeback / collapse, but this one was huge because it really felt like it stopped the Steelers in their tracks, and it really kind of did.
Yeah, this one was a ticky-tacky one. This is the one I get mad at the refs for because, again, this is one of those plays where you're like, all right, in slow motion or after the play, and from our angle it doesn't look like it, but this is one that I don't really blame the refs for calling. It is soft, I agree, but, like, it's more unfortunate than anything. It's not like this wasn't like the Santevi false start where it was obvious that as all hell that it wasn't a penalty or was a penalty. This one, it killed the Steelers drive, though. You're exactly correct. It was just a ticky-tacky call and just took away that nice 22-yard gain. And, yeah.
Didn't see a whole lot from the ground game after that. The Steelers drive stalls. The Chargers get the ball back at their own 12. This was another good punt from Jordan Berry. The Chargers start moving the ball down the field. You get a breakdown in coverage. It allows Keenan Allen to go for 21 yards. And then we see Justin Jackson. We'd seen a lot of Austin Eckler early. And mind you, the Steelers' rush defense early on, the first half was fantastic. I think they had 2 rushing yards, and Eckler was just a complete non-factor. And then, in the second half, the Steelers just had no answer for this Justin Jackson kid. And I know you mentioned him as being a dangerous guy. On his first 2 plays, he picks up 12 yards. He forces 2 missed tackles, gets a first down, and all of a sudden he's changing the game. And Phillip Rivers gets sacked by Javon Hargrave, but it almost doesn't even matter because on a 2nd and 14, another 2nd and long, the Steelers give up a big gain to Mike Williams, 20 yards. Eckler gets the ball inside the Steelers 30. Another 18-yard pass play to Mike Williams. Eckler gets the ball inside the 10, and then we have that very bizarre touchdown caught by Keenan Allen off the deflection from Joe Hayden and Sean Davis. So it's kind of like, again, a very, very bizarre touchdown for the Chargers, their second of the game, and it's just the events leading up to that were very strange.
Oh, yeah. So something I wanted to really focus on. 3rd and 2 at the LA Charger 20. Phillip Rivers passes short left to Keenan Allen, pushed out of bounds at the LA Chargers 41 for 21 yards by Sean Davis. Sean Davis, what are you doing? Mike Hilton is literally on his man. There's two guys. Sean Davis is lined up there. Mike Hilton is by himself on his guy. Mike Hilton takes his guy, and Sean Davis is like, oh, Keenan Allen's by himself? Let me go help Mike Hilton with his guy. Oh, all right. And you left Keenan Allen wide open just to help Mike Hilton in double coverage on one guy. I don't even know who it was. It might have been Travis Benjamin, might have been Tyrell Williams. I don't know. I don't care. It was just a stupid play. I was pissed. I didn't really notice at the time. I didn't see what happened. I thought that there was a miscommunication, which there was, but I didn't really know who to blame it on. It was completely Sean Davis. It was 100%. And what was even worse about that is Sean Davis almost didn't push Keenan Allen out. Sean Davis gave the weakest, to push him. And Keenan Allen, I was surprised. I thought Keenan Allen was tiptoeing the sideline and staying in and going all the way. I couldn't believe that Keenan Allen actually fell out of bounds from Sean Davis's push. That was the first thing that pissed me off. Then, not so much pissing me off. I mean, it was annoying, but Hargreaves been out of his mind. I think we could both agree. He's been playing absolutely insanely with his pass rushing skills from his position, but the team just let Rivers get the yards back and more right after the sack. It's almost like it was useless. It did nothing. They let it happen right after, and it's just so annoying. Then I just wanted to say that the Cody Sensabaugh mismatch came up again. He was beat in the mismatch with Mike Williams this time, and this one it was for 18 yards on 3rd and 14. That's absolutely killer. Terrell Edmonds needed to get there faster. I mean, I think Terrell Edmonds was actually looking at Sean Davis on this play. I forget which play it was. I believe it was this one. But Terrell Edmonds, it made me laugh because Terrell Edmonds, the rookie, is looking at Sean Davis like, what are you doing? That's basically what this game was for me. Sean Davis, what are you doing? And that gets to the end. That gets to what this. I am never going to get over this. I'm going to think of Sean Davis, and this is going to be the first play that comes to my mind. How? I just want to know how that you there's pictures after how do you not see Joe Hayden there? And we get it. You can't you're running full speed and you can't dodge contact. But why are you running right at the ball? Why wouldn't you duck down, try and go for fall down by their legs or something? I mean, maybe you're afraid that you're gonna hurt their legs instead. But you nearly took out Joe Hayden. I thought Joe Hayden was concussed. I don't know about you. I thought Joe Hayden was done. I thought he was gonna be done for the game. I didn't think he was in the clear concussion protocol. I was pissed at Sean Davis. And then it just got worse. Because of that, because he had to go into the blue tent, Artie Burns had to come in. And now, in a speed race, do you think old man Antonio Gates would win or Artie Burns? Because apparently Antonio Gates wins. I don't understand. I don't know what happened. You watch the 2-point conversion, and you just see Artie Burns see Antonio Gates sprint out there, and somehow Antonio Gates still beats him. How do you lose in a speed battle with Antonio Gates? He wasn't even on the Chargers roster to begin the year. Week 1 he was on the roster, but he wasn't there early. It's because he's older and not as good as he used to be. It's because he's slower, and Artie Burns still got beat. And I want to hold my anger for Artie Burns because Artie Burns is benched. He's not supposed to be out there. And, I mean, granted, he still deserves criticism because he's still bad. he is still bad, but he shouldn't have been out there. Joe Hayden wouldn't have let that happen. I mean, of course, that's just me speaking out of nowhere. That play could happen differently if Joe Hayden's out there. Maybe they target someone else. It gives them a better chance. But if Sean Davis never hits Joe Hayden on what would have been an interception, that would have never happened in the first place. That's an interception. That takes eight points off the board because they got the 2-point afterward. So, I mean, that Sean Davis literally handed them 8 points because he didn't even have the ball skills to get the ball away. He just collided with Joe Hayden and was just like, well, let me just hit the ball. And Keenan Allen's just a good receiver. He's aware of his surroundings and was able to come down with it. Pissed off. Pissed off does not put – it really doesn't scratch the surface. There's so much that I'll call it hot takes, but I haven't cooled down since this game for Sean Davis. I've been thinking, okay, Steelers need to draft a safety. I've been looking at Landon Collins real nice because he's going on IR and he's going to be a free agent. It's like, well, maybe if he switches to free safety like his first year, but the cap Steelers have because of Bell next year. I've been thinking all these things because Sean Davis pissed me off from this one play alone. I mean, he had a bad game entirely. Like, this wasn't the only bad thing he did. I've already mentioned his name a few times, and once on this drive already. This isn't the first time he fucked up on this drive. Excuse my language. I'm sorry. I couldn't control that one. That one had to come up. I was pretty bad after the game, too. I put out a tweet, and I think John deleted it at first, but I double deleted it because it wasn't coming up. But sorry. I was still very mad about it. Regardless, that really wraps up that play for me. I am literally sweating from yelling about that for so long.
They often say that sometimes being able to vent is good for you, and that's okay. This is an airing of grievances. The whole tweet thing, I saw it, and I knew you didn't really mean it, but I know that you didn't. It was just a frustration in the heat of the moment, but that's okay. It's quite simple. You do anything other than what you did on that play. And again, the 2-point conversion with the whole domino effect of Boswell missing that PAT was crucial. The Steelers get the ball back, and another drive gets derailed by another holding penalty, this time on Villanueva, and it's followed by the Chargers' only sack of the game, and it was kind of an inopportune time, but that's what happens when you're going up against Joey Bosa in a 2nd and 19 situation. The Steelers' drive ends. They punt from their own 11, and this is another big punt by Jordan Berry I'd like to mention. Oh, but then it gets returned for a touchdown. And let's just go down the list of bad things that happen here. You get a missed tackle by Darius Hayward-Bay. He makes the catch. You got a block in the back that wasn't called on Brian Allen when he was pushed to the ground. Another missed tackle by Roosevelt Nixon, poor spacing. And then just adding injury to insult, Cameron Canada got hurt on the play. And sure enough, the 2-point conversion attempt is good, and the game is tied. Just it goes from bad to worse.
Yep. It'd be like that sometimes, Chief. Like that holding from Big Al and Sack killed that drive easily. Bosa had a good spin move, but like even then, if Bosa didn't get there, DeCastro, I don't think it will show up on the stats because I don't think it counted as a split sack. But DeCastro would have given up his first sack of the year right there because DeCastro got beat too. DeCastro's guy was actually the first guy to hit then, and it was just Joey Bosa was the one to finish it. So. That was happening regardless of if Filer had a good play on Bosa there, but I really just think Bosa's just amazing. Bosa just plays great, and it just came at an inopportune time. But like you said, that punt came from the Steelers' 5-yard line and went to the Chargers' 28. Like I literally went back and looked at it. I was like, Jordan Berry was on fire, and I'll say this now. Jordan Berry was graded as the best punter of this week by Pro Football Focus. And I think he deserved it. I thought he did pretty great. Like, the only area that he could have improved, like, maybe on that 35-yard punt, he got 39 yards, 40 yards to pin him inside the 10. But, like, that's very nitpicky. He had a pretty good punt there, and it got, like, I think it went down at the 16 on that drive. But regardless, Jordan Berry was great in this game. But, of course, Darius Hayward-Bay immediately whiffed. That was really bad. And then, like you said, Brian Allen, that block in the back, that's a rough one. Again, that one I think is a little bit more closer to, like, how did you not see it? It's just the guy literally picks up his hands like, nah, I didn't do it. I swear. And it's just like, the rest are like, oh, okay, he didn't do it. Look, he's got his hands up. He's letting us know he didn't do it. Like, he completely did it. It was 100%. And then I got a question for you. Did you go back and watch that second 2-point?
The one where Keenan Allen was wide open. I watched it a couple times, but not thoroughly.
Okay. So I kept looking back, and I was trying to decide if it was Hayden's or if it was Davis's fault. And it was really easy to say Davis, but I think they were in man coverage. I think Hayden got confused. I think Hayden really messed that up because based on what everyone else is doing, everyone else is like man to man. So I think Hayden, like, because 3 guys came in his face, like, oh, okay. But the 3 guys were right in front of him when the play started. He got confused on who to follow, and Keenan Allen just went straight past him. And by the time he realized it, he tried catching him. That's just a bad play by Hayden. One of the few times he got beat by Keenan Allen on the day.
So, as we just said, bad went from bad to worse, and the Steelers go 3 and out on their next drive, continuing their ineptitude in the second half at the worst possible time. The Chargers offense now in great rhythm, the Steelers defense having made no adjustments and now getting tired at this point, they start rolling down the field because, as we know, if it's a 2nd and long, the Chargers are getting a first down, and that's sure enough what happened. Keenan Allen with another 14-yard reception, then Justin Jackson goes off the left guard for 18 yards and catches a short pass for 19 yards, and the Steelers just had no answers for them. And then, sure enough, 2 plays later, it's Justin Jackson with another run from the Steelers' 18-yard line, and the defense is clearly out of gas now. 2 more missed tackles by Sean Davis and Terrell Edmonds. He breaks through and crosses the plane, so now the Chargers go in front 30-23, and not only has the lead been blown, but now they're losing too, and it's just anything and everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong at this point.
It really just sucks because you look at how fortunate the Steelers could have been. Then this is stupid because it doesn't make sense. Edmonds made a great play, but if Edmonds was half a second slower, Edmonds forces a fumble. He popped Eckler on I believe it was, I don't know what down it was. But regardless, it would have stopped their drive. The ball popped out because Edmonds laid a major hit stick on Eckler, but it's just unfortunate. He got punished for being so good to the ball. It happens sometimes. He forced the incompletion, but if he came in half a second later, that's a forced fumble. Regardless, something I also want to point out: Marcus Allen, just the safeties as a whole on that touchdown run, terrible. Because Marcus Allen missed the tackle too. Marcus Allen, Edmonds, and Davis. Those are your top 3 safeties for the day, and they all missed the tackle. It was just absolutely terrible. But really, something I wanted to harp on is that the Chargers stuck with the run, and it paid off for them. They had 2 18-yard runs and a 5-yard run, and they just had all the momentum. And something I've noticed is I think because Randy is a quarterback's coach, he focuses on the pass a lot. I think that's why he'll give up on the run. He'll almost forget about it. And here should have been an example of why you don't. The Chargers were down so much, 23-7 at one point. The run was doing nothing in the first half. Absolutely zero, nothing. They weren't getting. They were losing yards, and then they come back and they just keep hitting you with it. I mean, maybe it's because Jackson didn't get any carries in the first half, and so he was fully rested and ready to go in the second half. He was ready to attack a tired defense. Maybe that's the case, but I don't know. I feel like that should be a notice to Randy about how sticking to the run is. You just shouldn't give up on the run too early. We saw it in the past 2 games. I felt like in this game they gave up on the run too, and I wasn't very happy about it. I made it a key that if how the Steelers ran in this game would determine the outcome, and if they gave up on the run, they would lose. And that's how I felt like it happened. I felt like the Steelers gave up on the run, and they lost. But regardless, on the offensive drive before Edmonds popped Eckler and that they the Chargers got all those big gains. I just want to say on a 3rd and 5, Vance needs to catch that. It was a little high, but that's where he could get it and Phillips can't. Like, that hit him in the hands. And, again, I will say it wasn't Ben's, prettiest throw, but he put it right where it wouldn't get intercepted. So it was a good throw in my book for Ben. He put it where Vance could go up and grab it, and Phillips couldn't. And that's the bottom line. And Vance needs to come up with that. That one would have moved the chains, and it would have been big. But of course, it ended up in the punts from Jordan Berry because he couldn't get it. Just unfortunate.
So now the game is in dangerous situation. There's 8 minutes left. The Steelers offense finally gets things into gear. Roethlisberger finds Smith-Schuster for 4, Jesse James for 7, Brown for 15, and I'm just wondering when this is happening. Is where was this offense all half? They finally get the ball moving across midfield, and they get to the Chargers' 43-yard line. It was a 9-yard pass to Smith-Schuster. They called it just short of the first down marker, so it's a 4th and less than 1 here. And Mike Tomlin challenges the spot of the ball there. That's notoriously one of the hardest things to overturn. And I can understand not wanting to get the new set of chains there, but I think that's a bad challenge. You need to look at it from a standpoint that you're going to need your timeouts going forward against a team like the Chargers. And not just that, but if you can't get less than a yard with the game on the line, you really don't deserve to win anyways. And James Conner converting after it was upheld on a 2-yard run the next play thus renders the challenge a complete and utter waste of time.
That pissed me off. This out of everything else in the game, this is the second most annoying thing to me. And it's because it doesn't, you explained it very well, it doesn't make sense. It's for a first down, you have a quarterback that's good at the quarterback sneak, you have James Conner who's already shown that in the game he could rush for 1 yard to get a touchdown. It's just, why would you challenge? I thought it was bad. I saw from the beginning that Juju had to go backwards and he got touched when he was behind the line. I didn't think it was close. I thought that when he got touched, he was clearly behind the line. But regardless, Tomlin has said he only challenges if there's a clear landmark, and that is completely wrong. That is complete crap. We saw that with this challenge. And one more thing I want to point out. If the Steelers don't get it after the timeout, let's just say that they got stopped. You're left with 2 timeouts, and you basically can't stop the clock. So regardless, you needed all 3 timeouts. It was a stupid, it's just terrible challenge that didn't make sense. Because even if you didn't get it, you used the 3 timeouts there and hope to get a stop on defense. And if you don't, well, you lost the game. It's like that sometimes. But you should have bet on James Conner getting it instead, believing in your offense. I don't understand. I was really annoyed by that. That was one of the most annoying things from the game for me. I look back, I tweeted it too. I was like, this is going to be the 4th team we look back on if the Steelers lose this game, is not having all 3 timeouts. And it came back to bite them. It did.
Yeah, that was great analysis during the game. You kind of got a list going. You were like, all right, we're going to look back on this if the Steelers lose, and every single one, it's the 5 plays you can circle. That was one of them. And sure enough, it ended up being an impactful part at the end of the game. But the Steelers do convert, and they get the ball down the field. Roethlisberger gets Ryan Switzer absolutely killed on a dirty hit. But in any case, the Steelers keep moving down the field. And with about 4 minutes left, James Conner gets hurt, unfortunately. As we know, he'll be missing this week's game. Jalen Samuels comes in, catches a 6-yard pass, and then catches a 10-yard touchdown. And the Steelers tie the game, and I felt better, but I was still frustrated because the offense took so long to finally do something in the second half. And all I was thinking was there's 4 minutes left, and the Steelers have 2 timeouts. The offense might not get the ball again.
Yep, and that's exactly what happened. But what I wanted to go back on was on Ron Stitch getting killed. He's tough. That kid is absolutely tough. He stood back up. I didn't think he was getting up after that, and decided, I want to go back in. And then he had to go back. He had to go into the blue tent, and they told him, no, you're in concussion protocol. but he was ready to go. He's tough. he's a tough guy. Directly following that play, 1st and 10 at the LA Charger 26. What was Ben thinking? What was that play call? First of all, the play call has Darius Hayward-Bay running. Why is Darius Hayward? Okay, so Ryan switches out of the game. We have that. Justin Hunter's out of the game. So I guess Darius Hayward-Bay is forced onto the field. But Ben decides to throw to Darius Hayward-Bay running the streak route in double coverage. Why? I mean, he made it uncatchable so that it wasn't going to be a pick. But, like, I was just baffled. Like, throwing the Darius Hayward-Bay in double coverage, that's the play call? Yeah, like, I don't understand. That was something that pissed me off going back. I didn't really even... I looked at it at first, was like, why are they throwing to Darius Hayward-Bay? And then I watched it again, I'm like, this is even more stupid going back. But I wanted to just praise Jalen Samuels for showcasing his good ball-catching skills with a 6-yard gain, then a 10-yard touchdown following the injury. I feel like I need to praise him a lot because I gave him a lot of crap when he got drafted. So I feel like I had to keep giving it back to him when he does good stuff. So I just wanted to say that I think Jalen Samuels is doing a pretty good job for a guy I didn't think would make the roster.
Another play that Roethlisberger had a bad decision was the play before he got Ryan Switzer killed. He stepped up into pressure, delivered a pass off balance that was nearly picked in the middle of the field by the Chargers, going for Antonio Brown. Another bad decision by him, but it did work out for the Steelers. They got the touchdown, they tied the game, and the Chargers go right down the field. They eat up clock, and they get in, you can tell the defense is gassed. Justin Jackson gets an 11-yard run where LJ Fort gets manhandled on the play. The run defense is struggling, and then they start taking their timeouts. They get over to the Steelers side of the field. The Steelers finally get a huge couple of plays or a couple breaks. The Chargers get 2 3-yard plays, a run by 3 yards and a pass for 3 yards. So it's 3rd and 4 from the Steelers' 34-yard line, 1 minute to go. And this was really a microcosm of the game. John Bostic, who had played 10 snaps in the game because he is not super athletic and he's more of a run-stopping guy, the Steelers were smart in subbing him for LJ Fort for big parts of this game. But they put in Bostic for this play after not being on for LJ Fort the play before. And he's in single coverage on Keenan Allen. And sure enough, in space, Keenan Allen's going to win that battle 100 times out of 100 times. Even if the coverage is like average, even if he's like kind of close, it could have been an incompletion or a sack or interception. Javon Hargrave absolutely whooped Mike Pouncey on that play. And he actually blasted Rivers if you go back and look at it. But for whatever reason, Bostic was in the game, not put in a situation to succeed, and it makes no sense whatsoever. What are you doing, Keith Butler? Why did you do this? This makes no sense. This is a fireable offense, and this play, more than any, lost them the game.
Yep, it's just a stupid decision. I mean, even if you have LJ Ford out there, what are you doing? Like, you really don't want to. You're really that stubborn that you're going to say, all right, well, we're going to keep putting linebackers against Keenan Allen. I mean, he has a stat line of, 150 yards on 10 catches, but, you know what? Maybe one of these times it's going to work. It's not working. That's just pure stubbornness and stupidness. How are you going to be that stubborn that you're not going to allow your players to succeed? Put Joe Hayden over there. Joe Hayden has done really well against number 1 wide receivers. Let him do it. If he gives it up, fine. You know what? The Steelers shouldn't have let the Chargers come back in the first place. And if they win the game, I mean, they won the game anyway, so now in retrospect it looks better. But regardless, I don't understand. It's just another thing. The stubbornness is absolutely brutal. I was impressed. I had no expectation that LJ Fort was just going to be the starting inside linebacker for the game. I didn't think that they would adjust to a team's strengths and try to combat it. And then they just go and do stupid stuff. They decide to, we're going to cover Keenan Allen with linebackers because, Keenan Allen's just a scrub wide receiver. Never heard his name before. Probably not even that good, so, like, a linebacker can do it. Not fast or anything, so why not? It's just baffling. It's baffling, the stupid decisions made.
And we get to a very odd sequence at the end of the game. The Chargers had to attempt 3 different field goals because the Steelers were offsides on all 3. The first one, probably the most questionable of all, as far as whether or not the Steelers were actually offsides, which would have been the most frustrating because the kick was actually missed by the Chargers kicker. Can you believe if the Chargers kicker missed another field goal like that? But in any case, reports came out later in the game, or later after the game, that the Chargers long snapper had been simulating the snap by kind of rolling the ball around, which is illegal, by the way. And you can get penalized for that, but he was not. The Chargers got to attempt 2 more field goals. The second was blocked, and they made the third one, and the game was over. So a very bizarre way to end the game, but kind of a fitting one almost for kind of how the night went.
This is up there with things that pissed me off. Like, it wasn't really that the Steelers got called. It was more that, so you could see that, but not Sam Tevy moving, like, a second before the snap. Like, you could see, like, ooh, maybe Joe Hayden got off by, like, a millisecond. Like, it's close. Maybe it's just the Steelers blinders. I don't think Joe Hayden was offside. I really don't. On that, I'm sorry, I don't think Bud Dupree was offside on that. But it's just, that pissed me off because that was a super close. That was one of those things that, okay, yeah, the ref could basically go either way, however they were feeling. But, like, just based on how the game was going, that was just really sucked. And, I mean, just seeing that the kicker missed it on his own, that was bad. that really hurt. Oh.
And the Steelers fell to 7-4-1. And after looking like the playoffs were a sure thing, the Steelers are now only a half game ahead of the Ravens in first place in the AFC North. So there are certainly problems aplenty with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we'll get into our award section right now. So let's get started. I guess actually no, let's back it up a little bit. My bad. Let's get into Week 13 of the NFL season. But I guess last thing before we move on. Just your final thoughts on the game.
I think that the Steelers realistically need to go at least 2-2 from this point on to make the playoffs. If they don't, they don't have a good shot because the Ravens don't really have to face that hard a competition. Their next 2 games are hard. So they have to versus the Chiefs this game, and then they verse San Diego later. But the other 2 games I can't remember. But basically, I don't care what people say. I don't care what rankings have. The Steelers are a better team than the Chargers. I'll say that 100%. If the Steelers get to versus the Chargers, again, it doesn't matter if they're home or away. Home games for the Chargers are away games for the Chargers. It's the same thing. Steelers are beating them. Steelers are whipping them like they whipped the Dolphins 2 years ago, after they got whipped by them in the regular season. It's not happening again. I can tell you that. But realistically, they need to pick up a win to be safe. They need to win against the Patriots or the Saints, and that's a tough one. That's a tough ask, but because they really should have just won this game and made it easy. But it's never easy, is it? Gotta be something interesting.
It's always a roller coaster with the Steelers, and it's a ride that we're all on together. And another ride that's kind of been a roller coaster in its own right has been the Dallas Cowboys. We talked about their win on Thursday night over the Saints, a surprising one. Not a lot of surprises early on. I felt like this was the easiest pick'em week that we've had for a while. Some of the games were easy to pick. We got the Ravens over the Falcons. We got the Broncos over the Bengals. We got the Rams over the Lions. Packers-Cardinals was interesting. The Packers fired their head coach, Mike McCarthy, and we'll talk a bit about that on our next podcast. But, losing at home to the Arizona Cardinals, that's rock bottom.
Yeah, I can't believe the Packers are that bad. It's just this team is based around Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is not playing at his Hall of Fame level that we're used to. He's playing at decent to good. That's where he's at. And that's how much this team falls apart when Aaron Rodgers isn't carrying this team completely. It's just they're not a very good team at all.
We also had the Seahawks covering against the 49ers. A few other games. These were two 1 o'clock games. We were split on the Bills and Dolphins. Josh Allen throws a desperation final pass to Charles Clay, who drops it in the end zone. That was a frustrating way to end. And the Browns and Texans. The Texans pull away for their 9th straight win. Interesting endings to both games.
Oh yeah, definitely. Did you see the angle that got Charles Clay and then the staff on the sideline? Did you see that video?
I didn't. I did not.
Basically, the angle it's like you can see the Bills sideline as Charles Clay drops it. I don't know which coach it was. It was for the Bills, but he literally drops on the ground and literally just lies there like dead. He literally just lies straight down. It made me laugh a lot, but that's basically all I wanted to point out from those games.
Charles Clay is not a good football player. The Giants employ many bad football players, but they did win. They won again, so they're clearly not tanking the Bears. Maybe Mitchell Trubisky is more important to this team than we thought.
I just can't believe it. I thought the Bears were like heading towards a win. I believe they are one of the only teams. They might be the only team that recovered an onside kick this year in this game, because I can't really think of another team that recovered an onside kick. I mean, I'm probably wrong on that, and I just probably haven't heard of it. But as soon as I saw them recover that onside kick, I'm like, oh, geez, the Giants are really going to blow this game, aren't they? Like after Alec Ogletree had a pick six and after all the things went for them, they're going to blow it. Like, they hardly put up 30 points ever, and I would have put money that if there was a game that the Giants didn't put up 30 points in, I would have bet this one. And, of course, they went over 30 points. But I'm shocked. I'm genuinely shocked that the Giants were able to beat out the Bears' defense. And, honestly, it's because Odell Beckham is a better deep passer than Eli Manning is. Obviously, Odell Beckham had a 40-yard touchdown. Eli Manning has 0 touchdowns over 40 yards this year. Odell Beckham has 2 passing touchdowns over 40 yards. So that's something funny, a stat that I like.
Something else that's funny is hearing that Jameis Winston suddenly morphed into Cam Newton, and Cam Newton became Jameis Winston for a day. And Newton tossed 4 picks en route to the Panthers' 4th straight loss. They have not been the same since the Steelers slaughtered them on Thursday Night Football last month.
It must have been an awakening. I was thinking the same thing. Like, they haven't won a game since the Steelers absolutely destroyed them. Like, they're in an absolutely terrible spot. They went from like, oh yeah, these are the guys. They're going to finish behind the Saints, and they're going to be a wild card in the playoffs. To now, like, they're probably not making the playoffs. I'm going to put it honestly. Like, they have to verse the Saints twice still. And, I mean, I believe they versed the Saints the last week of the regular season, which that might play into helping them. But I know that they play the Saints next week, and the Saints are still fighting with the Rams for that number 1 seed. And, I mean, it could come down to the wire for them and the Rams. So, like, it's going to be rough for Carolina to make the playoffs. So they have to verse the Saints at full strength twice. Like, that's going to be terrible.
Yes, indeed. And a game that you could definitely qualify as terrible would be the Colts and Jaguars. Did not see this one coming. 6-0? Yeah, didn't see that, and certainly didn't see Cody Kessler winning this game.
Nope. That was interesting, but Cody Kessler got his win, and Josh Lambo is a pretty solid kicker. I feel it makes me laugh because obviously he got cut by the Chargers. So, like, that's just terrible. Like the Chargers have had kicking problems, and they decided that Josh Lambo wasn't their guy. And now Josh Lambo I think he is pretty close to the top for Pro Bowl votes for kickers. And I think he's one of the best. I mean, he's done really good this year. So
4 o'clock games. The Titans eke out a close victory over the Jets. The Chiefs get by with a narrow victory against the Raiders. Their defense is really, really bad, which is going to be interesting to see going forward. The Patriots handled their business against the Vikings, who always seem to struggle in important games. We discussed the Steelers game already, and then in Monday Night Football, Adrian Peterson gets a 90-yard touchdown, Colt McCoy breaks his ankle, and the butt fumble, Mark Sanchez himself returns to the NFL, and, he now has the butt fumble recovery.
The cycle continues. It's all as well. It's like, what year is it? Mark Sanchez passing off to Adrian Peterson for a 90-yard touchdown. It's like it's 2012 again or something, like 6 years ago. The craziest stat that came out of that for me is Adrian Peterson joins Herschel Walker as the only other player in history to have a 90-yard touchdown in a game and not go over 100 yards in the game. That was it. Like, after that 90-yard touchdown, the Redskins didn't use him. I don't know why, but like they just decided not. And he didn't go over 100 yards, joining only Herschel Walker.
All right, so let's get into Thursday Night Football. Jaguars at Titans. The Jaguars pretty much out of it, but the Titans on the fringes of the AFC playoffs. They're getting 4.5 at home. How you feeling about this one?
I feel weird. I feel like the Titans win one and lose one. So I'm going to pick the Jaguars to win outright. I'm going to say Cody Kessler leads them to a win. But typically, the Titans kill the Jaguars. It doesn't matter how good the Jaguars are. The Titans are the Jaguars' kryptonite. So it's kind of a bad pick, but I'm still going to pick the Jaguars to win outright.
I'll go with the Titans, lay the 4.5 points, just because I always like my Thursday night teams at home. And as you already mentioned, the Titans are going for their second straight season sweep over the Jaguars. I forget the last time they lost, but it has been a while. So overall records this past week, Austin was 8-8, I was 6-10. That brings our records to a respectable, for me, 76-88, and for Austin, 62-104. And remember, we have only a 1-in-3 chance of getting it right, really, because we're picking against the spread and against the points as well. So we have a slim chance of getting it right in the first place. But let's move on to our awards section. And I want to mention, because it wasn't mentioned last week, because I was not on the show, that last week's big stop of the week was Javon Hargrave's sack of Case Keenum. So he makes an appearance on the big stop of the week award once again. And this week it's going to go to LJ Fort. LJ Fort with his punt block. It technically isn't a block, I said, but it was a huge play in the game. The Steelers get a touchdown out of it. And actually, no, wait, they didn't get a touchdown out of it. That was a field goal. But either way, it was still a huge defensive play, and there weren't really any other big, or I guess it's a special teams play, there weren't any big defensive plays that led to anything, so I felt like this was the most deserving. So here's the audio from that play.
And no running game for Los Angeles. Jones has that one blocked. That was LJ Fort. And the ball comes out to about the 35-yard line. So they almost blocked his first punt, and this time they come in and are able to deflect it.
All right, so that was the big stop of the week. Let's hear about the player of the week, the Stronger Than Steel player of the week.
I just got to echo your point here, and I'm going to hit it home with LJ Fort. For leading the team with 12 tackles, 9 of them being solo, and having a punt block in this game, LJ Fort is also the Stronger Than Steel player of the week. So that leads us to the Stronger Than Steel play of the game. And I think we really only have one play left that we could really choose, don't you think, since we got the big stop of the week as LJ Fort's blocked punt?
I'm also going to say that because Jalen Samuels nearly ruined that play, I think the touchdown pass is better in my mind. Am I making sense?
No, yeah, I understand. Like that play wasn't like completely clean, and the bend to Antonio Brown deep touchdown pass over Casey Hayward, it was a big play. Like it started off hot. It started the Steelers off hot. I think that's the Stronger Than Steel player of the game.
And here's the audio from that touchdown.
Just didn't have to do that grab. You know, the Chargers had 2 pass interference penalties all season in 11 games, 2 tonight on Davis. Roethlisberger sliding, throwing, touchdown. Again, a ton of time, slides to his left, and that enables Antonio Brown to get free for the score.
And that was at the end of the first half. We obviously know how the rest of that game went, but a very big play indeed. So let's get into our winners and losers. I'll give you my winners first. Antonio Brown. And look, Brown had a difficult stretch of games out, and after last week, people were talking about Juju Smith-Schuster as the #1 receiver, and, well, Brown reasserted himself as the top target once again. He won his matchup with a quality cornerback in Casey Hayward and finished with 10 catches for 154 yards, something we're used to seeing from Brown, and his touchdown catch was vintage AB. My other winner is Javon Hargrave. It feels like a weekly appearance to the winner section for Hargrave ever since Stephon Tuitt left the lineup, but Hargrave was really good again. With Tuitt starting to get worked back into the defense, and he played pretty well in addition to him, but Hargrave had another solid day. The defense later tired out and gave up some big plays, but Hargrave was a great threat throughout the game, and even on the final plays I mentioned where he got pressure, and if the coverage was better, he could have made a big play. Who are your winners?
My first one is LJ Ford. It was pretty obvious. I feel like he was everywhere in this game, and it was sort of unexpected. I mean, it's interesting to see the Steelers actually trying to directly combat their opponent's strength with the player's best fit for the job. So I'm still going to always feel slightly bitter about Ford doing good, though. Always. Rest in peace last season after Sean Spence got started instead of LJ Ford. But moving on from the salt, I have 3 winners today. Technically, I have more than that, but I'm like lumping all my second winners together. My second winners are James Washington, Stephen Ridley, and Jalen Samuels. With Hunter out for the year and Switzer still in protocol, it looks like Washington is a winner as he's going to get playing time. Actually, as I thought he was going to be inactive for the rest of the year, but now it looks like he's not going to be. And now Stephen Ridley and Jalen Samuels, with James Conner being out, will get a chance to showcase their skills too. Because Stephen Ridley said he was waiting for an opportunity. I don't know what opportunity he was waiting for. I don't think he was ever going to get that, but he's got it by accident. So I suppose it's something. And it's going to be interesting to see what him and Jalen Samuels can do while Connor's out. And my third winner is Jordan Berry. He had so many great punts in this one, even on that Desmond King touchdown. That punt went, as I said, all the way from Pittsburgh 5 to the Chargers 28. So I was happy with his performance.
All right, my 2 losers were on offense, Vance McDonald. He had a rough game, let's be honest. He only caught 4 of his 7 targets for 28 yards and didn't really make a single contested catch. He dropped a couple balls he should have caught. And outside of his 10-yard gain where he trucked the defender, his performance was largely forgettable. And on defense, it was Keith Butler. His game plan, stubbornness, and lack of knowledge to make adjustments is laughable and sad. I'm really curious if he actually thinks this game plan could work against the Saints or Patriots or whomever the Steelers might play in the playoffs. If adjustments aren't made, the Steelers will not win a Super Bowl. Simple as that. We talked about it. This defense is not talented enough to overcome bad coaching, and the coaching is not good enough to help the players as they are right now. So you got to be able to help each other play to your strengths. Simple as that.
My first loser is going to be Chris Boswell. The missed PATs are just too much for me. I know he hit a 48-yarder here, but I'm past the breaking point for that. For me to say he belongs on the roster next year, he needs to hit every single one of his PATs from here on out, which shouldn't be a hard thing for a normal kicker. And he needs to hit at least one 50-yard field goal and 5 other field goals of 40 yards plus. Otherwise, I don't think he should be on the roster next year. That really isn't the most I'm asking for. I mean, the 50-yarder is probably the hardest out of that, but just really he needs to improve a lot. And then I'm going to echo your point. For defense, it's Keith Butler. You see your linebackers getting toasted by Keenan Allen, and relatively speaking, you see Hayden faring well against them when they matched up most of the time. So what do? You keep linebackers on Keenan Allen for a lot of the game. Amazing. Incredible adjustments. Not only that, though, in the most crucial time, you choose to put Bostic out there instead of Fort to cover Allen. If you're going to put a linebacker on him, you should have put him in Fort. So disgraceful play calling makes Keith Butler a loser. But moving on, because I was so angry, we had to make an extra section to go past losers. And we have named it the weaker than aluminum foil failure of the week. And did you think I was done about Sean Davis? Did I say it enough? Because I didn't. I didn't feel like I did. So, Sean Davis, you earn a special kind of award that I made up just for you this week. Because in all our time doing this, we've seen bad performances from players. It wouldn't be the first time. We've had guys like Sammy Coates. We had Jarvis Jones. We've had a lot of disappointing players. But this was otherworldly bad and needed its own section to rant it out. My man Hayden must have really pissed you off prior to the game, because instead of trying to avoid contact after seeing him, you decided to literally just aim for the ball and deck Hayden instead. which took away what would have been an interception and made it a touchdown. But it even gets better. You made Artie Burns come back on the field for a 2-point because it looked like he could cuss Hayden. And immediately the Chargers attacked him with old man Antonio Gates. You single-handedly caused 8 points when you put up. And that's not mentioning your terrible tackling on Jackson 18-yard touchdown or any of the other bonehead plays you made throughout the day. So congratulations to you, Sean Davis, on winning the first and possibly only weaker than aluminum foil failure of the week. Congratulations, Sean Davis. I hope you had a good game. I don't know. Do you have anything else to say?
Nothing. I think we got it out, and I think you had it pretty accurately. So let's wrap up on that note, unless if you had anything else.
Nope, that should be it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on another edition of the Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for bearing with us and for listening to our new segments. We always like to hear about ideas and get feedback. So if you have any questions about the show, feel free to email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our website listed in the description below as well. So that'll wrap up Season 3, Episode 57. We're on to the Oakland Raiders for the last time, most likely the Steelers in Oakland. And we'll be here, as always, to preview that game. So thank you, as always, for listening to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. Have a great night.
Don't get concussed by Sean Davis.
You have been listening to Stronger